This is Holy Joe Rock and Roll, back on the scene. Sorry about that, we had a little bit of a technical problem. Well, long story short, my UPS battery died, so I was using Wi-Fi, and I guess the Wi-Fi connection couldn't keep up, and I was getting a red light, and I just reviewed the 2 minutes that went broadcast, and it looked like the video wasn't pushing out there, only the audio. But now, whatever, I rewired the data center real quick and bypassed the UPS, and we're back up. So as I was saying, just to kind of recap, as many of you know that follow the channel, I baptized my daughter this weekend on Sunday. I'll try to get this, oh, come here. Like the new Polish royal family, people. Anyhow, this is from the church before the baptism actually started, right? Anyhow, wanted my sister to be the godmother, but she couldn't make it because she couldn't travel for a host of reasons. Husband couldn't get off work, all kinds of crazy stuff. Anyhow, make a long story short, I was just thinking about a lot of things. Just went through my mind. And I was joking with my sister just now because she said she was sorry that she couldn't make it. And I sent her, because I sent her this picture. And I said, look, we're like 2 hours away by plane. If you ever wanted to escape Germany and hashtag Islam sucks balls invasion, come travel back in time, back to the future of what will be the future of Christian Europe, which is really centered in Poland, along with Hungary, Slovakia, and Czech Republic. Now, even though people may argue that most people in Czech Republic are atheistic or don't consider themselves to be Christian, they still identify with the Christian values and their heritage and Western culture, you know, our history. And these four countries, known as the V4 or the Visegrad Group. Okay, we're back on, yeah. And I've been thinking about this for a long time. I've been kicking this around a long time. What is the perfect situation for you, right? A lot of people consider the American dream as the perfect situation. It's what people have, whether it's a creation of Jewish Hollywood starting in the 30s or not. That's not the point. It's part of the American dream, the culture. This idea of the American dream and finding this perfect situation, right? Which for everybody could be something different. It's how do you define success, right? It could be for different people. But you know, for me, moving to Poland over 10 years ago was the perfect situation for me, and I knew it would be. yeah. You know, someone's asking, is that Obama sneaking through the door in the back there? This picture came from the live stream just before President Trump and the two senators stepped out. And I tried to screen grab it, but I was like a fraction of a second too late. So the door opened. But, so yeah, for me, I thought, yeah, definitely coming to Poland was the best thing for me, right? Because I'd been here before, went back to the U.S., was working there, I was just dreaming about Poland. This is around late 2006, early 2007. And then, make a long story short, I found an opportunity to come back to Poland, and I came. And I had a job waiting for me, and it's complicated, and it's all crazy, and, you know, you got to get your work permit, all that stuff in place before you come here. If you don't, you got to go back. It's just insane. Nobody would help me. Nobody could help me, or people who said I could do XYZ wouldn't tell me how to do XYZ, so I had to go back to the U.S. on multiple occasions to renew my work visa, which is only good for 1 year. Anyway, that's another side story, but it worked out good for me, and I just feel like Poland, for me, has been the perfect situation, the perfect place. Now, I'm not saying that Poland is perfect. Obviously, Poland has its problems, just like any country does, right? But it has been a perfect situation for me, and I, in many ways, encouraged some people to come here. Nobody came. I mean, a few people came to visit, but nobody has followed my lead that I'm aware of and moved here. recently, whatever. I'm just saying on generally speaking, right? Although I know a lot of expats that have come here for whatever reason, and that have moved here and are here and they're happy. But with this move today by President Donald J. Trump to reform the immigration program, and if those who are watching and are aware of what's happening, you can see that Trump is keeping his campaign promises and maintaining this idea of America first and make America great again. By reforming the immigration program so that it ends this whole family reunification bullshit, and it encourages or only focuses on what can an immigrant do for us, right? Only allowing in people who speak English, people who love our values, people who love America, right? Doesn't want to be sued by the And look, I'm not opposed to Muslims individually, but when you get too many hashtag Islam sucks balls people in your country, you wind up having problems, as we see in Europe, Western Europe, Germany, France, the UK, especially, but pretty much all of these countries, even Spain. Spain had the train bombings and other terrorist attacks, and it's a major, major problem, right? So it's something that we need to consider. Oh, that's what that is. Wukash, welcome. Wukash, something popped up on screen earlier, and it was a request to join. Wukash, welcome to my Skype. By the way, you can hit me up on Skype. The screen name is holyjoe space rock is the screen name, and you'll see a picture of me wearing the Spider-Man hat. That's the icon. It's holyjoe, one word, space rock, if you want to call in via Skype. But I'm sitting here in this White House room because it really, I think, is going to be an historic moment in American history. That's just another thing that's going to turn the tide, pulling power away from these globalists and these elitists that have been selling out the American people for more than 8 years. It's not just during the Obama years. I think that under the Bush administration, there was a lot of selling out going on as well. Because if you think about the Bush administration, not even counting about the war in Iraq, but even before, well, he was only in power for less than a year, like 7 months when 9/11 happened. But you remember that the Republicans have always been the party of fiscal conservatism, fiscal control, right? Always demonizing the Democrats for overspending. Yet Bush Jr. spent like a drunken sailor, and the debt went from around, what, $1.5 trillion to like $5 trillion, and then of course Obama doubled that, more than doubled that, in his whatever, or maybe went from 5 to 10, and then Obama doubled it, whatever it is. But President George W. Bush was not he didn't run a fiscally conservative administration during his 8 years. Now, some of that cost is due to the war, and the war obviously was a huge ripoff for the American people. You know, trillions of dollars have gone missing. Nobody knows where did the money go to, right? You consider a place like Iraq, which is extremely poor, not just counting the cost of the troops, or the cost of moving the troops, or the cost of replacing the broken equipment, or maintaining equipment, or the cost for training the Iraqi army. I mean, we're talking about Iraqi soldiers making maybe $250 a month, all in, and maybe there's 40,000 people. Also, and so where'd the money go? Anyways, just a total waste of money. And we know that a lot of this money probably went to, it was corruption. A lot of just corruption. Crony capitalism. So anyways, I'm kind of digressing here, but both Canada, for the most part, and Australia also has this type of policy. That they only allow in people that they want in. And if you come into Australia illegally, they will deport your ass to some island in the Pacific, and say, hey, well, we've given you safe haven. They won't let you in. Oh, Magda W is saying that the points program in Canada and Australia doesn't help at all. It only encourages fraud. It may be. I don't know how their program is, but all I know is that, I mean, I looked at possibly immigrating to Australia or even Canada, and they got this point system, and it was just too complicated to even apply. Whatever. Like every year it changes depending upon what they're looking for. They're looking for like a certain kind of engineer. That I'm not that kind of an engineer. I'm a different kind of engineer, but I probably could have done something. Yeah, man. 1916 Cajun says he's happy that I found my place in Poland. Thanks. I'm really happy here. And everything's good, man. I mean, look, again, it's not perfect. I'm in between jobs right now on the day job stuff. I still got some stuff going on, but so it's really my last job gave me a decent wage. So so that's an issue, and I mean, I looked around, the people in the office, they all seemed to be pretty well dressed, pretty well fed. They all had nice cars. It's not like they were not being paid acceptable. So whatever. It just depends maybe on the company and policies, whatnot. But we'll see what happens, man. Magda saying Canada accepted more migrants than Sweden. Points or no points, it only works for Muslims. Yeah, that is true. And also this Justin Trudeau, whatever, is that his name? The Prime Minister of Canada basically said that these Muslims that President Trump didn't want to take in after he signed his first executive order banning people from these seven Islamic countries, primarily Islamic countries, from coming to the U.S., that he would take them. I mean, that's just suicide. That's just cultural suicide and economic suicide. If, as we've now determined, some 70 to 80% of these so-called migrants are illiterate in their own language and have no job skills and can't get hired. There's no place for these people. There's just not enough low-skilled jobs for all these people when you have plenty of domestic low-skilled people. I mean, I'm just being honest, right? There's plenty of people who dropped out of school or have low IQs or are not ambitious, and they need jobs. They need simple-minded jobs, right? I'm not saying that factory jobs are simple-minded, but they're simple. If you have an average IQ, 90, 85, 90, average IQ for white people is around 100, 99, 100, right? You can do pretty much any job that doesn't require extensive training or degree, whatever, right? A lot of these jobs, even if you're a high school dropout, manufacturing jobs you can do, right? It's labor. You got to be smart enough to, screw on a bolt, follow some instructions, but you can do it, right? Anyhow, with this move, though, it's just like, I'm not tired of winning. And it's, again, it's not really for me because I really have no plans to go back. I get job offers all the time, or at least these so-called, we have a position for you. And I'm like, I'm not interested. Well, I'll do the work remotely, but I'm not moving back. And I mean, the money hasn't been that exciting, to be honest with you. Whatever. It was okay, or they wouldn't discuss the numbers, or they gave you a range, and I'm like, listen, I'm not moving back for a range. You got to give me a number. But once you're established in a new country, it's kind of hard, unless the company is going to pay for your relocation and help you sell your house and buy you a new house. It's pretty hard to pick up and move. And it's hard enough to move to a different city. And but it is possible. But when you have a family, it makes it really difficult. It makes it harder, right, to move. So, yeah, perfect situation may be becoming easier to find in the United States for American citizens, for Americans that are there legally, or American citizens or those there legally, okay? Because once you end this low-skilled labor in flooding into the country, either they're low skill and they're lowering wages for low-skilled jobs, which hurts primarily African Americans and Hispanics, but also low-skill whites. And there's more low-skill whites than there are of low-skill blacks or Hispanics because there's more whites right now. And this is probably why Trump won, because he was able to appeal to the average white working class person to say, from now on, it's going to be America first. Let's make America great again. Let's make these changes. A lot of these are common sense. This is a common sense change to only allowing people that are going to improve the economy, that speak English, and love our country, and want to be here, want to be in the United States. So this is just a first move. Not a first move. It's just another move by Trump in this long line of moves, including SoftBank. Is it not SoftBank? The company, the contract electronics manufacturing company that makes all of Apple's iPhones in China right now. Can't remember the name of the company, but they just agreed to spend about between 20 and 30 billion dollars, primarily in Wisconsin, building manufacturing. It doesn't take 1,000 Chinese dollar-a-day workers to make iPhones, when 10 reasonably skilled Americans with some automation to help them out can do probably the same job, and you can pay them $15 an hour, $20 an hour, and they'll be happy, right? So the perfect situation, what is it for you? How do you define the perfect situation? I'd be curious how people define that. Some people say it's having a family, having a house, having some money in the bank, just feeling secure. Some people just want to have a good job. Some people watching right now might be living in their mom's basement and playing video games all day. But they know that's not the perfect situation. Who do you want to call?
Is it FaceTiming?
Yeah, who do you want to call?
Nobody.
Okay, this is FaceTime.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I got a little
Marco has
interrupted there.
FaceTiming?
No, he doesn't. And it's almost midnight, so he's probably sleeping. I'll wrap this up real quick, and I'll be with you, okay? In a little bit, okay?
No.
Little man is tired. It's midnight here. I didn't realize what time it was, man. But all this stuff just kind of came up as I was chatting with my sister about her inability to be here. Oh, I wanted to say is that, in the U.S., at least in some of the churches that I've been to where the godmother or godfather couldn't be there, because, for instance, we lived overseas and we were in a different church, you could have a stand-in. Someone would stand in for them, and they would, mail in their papers proving that they were baptized and they were, according to the church, they were able to be a godparent. And then someone could stand in for them. But the Polish church, it doesn't seem like they're willing to do that. Or it's just not done here. If you want to be the godmother or the godfather, you got to be here. You got to be present, right? And you got to be here. Wow. Is that true? Magda's saying that the median wage in Beijing is $2,000 a month. And she thinks that, I'm assuming it's a girl, I don't want to mispronoun you. She thinks that the USA is just becoming economically advantageous, and that is partly true. Definitely partly true, right? For two reasons, right? If you're building the stuff in the U.S., you don't have to ship it to the U.S. You don't have to deal with the fear of a 35 or 40% trade tariff, right? Since the U.S. doesn't have any VAT, it'd be some kind of trade tariff, right? And not only can you respond quicker to the market because you're selling to the United States is still the largest single homogeneous market, even though the EU might have a greater GDP if you combine all of the EU countries, but it's not really homogeneous, right? Because you got all these different countries, all these different languages. Even though it's a free trade zone, it's not the same as the U.S. It's just not the same, and probably will never be. Although it's getting better. I just had a DHL package delivered today or yesterday, and that was pretty seamless, right? A package came from the U.S. through eBay's global priority shipping program, and I only did it because the shipping cost for that particular item was reasonable. Usually it's just totally messed up. Oh, Magda W says they have a penis. Wait a minute, Magda. You're using the screen name Magda W, but you're actually a guy. I think, right? Right? I think I got a message from somebody who said that. So yeah, so cool. If that's true, if I got it right. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Listen, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. That's hilarious. I don't know if you're what do you call it? You're punking me, right? You're punking me. So yeah, man. So it's all good, man. What else I want to say is, I had this idea. This is the problem with going live. It's totally unscripted. I didn't even write down any ideas or thoughts. But I just want to recap. I've had this idea for a long time about finding the perfect situation, and for me, it's been Poland, right? For the last, say, 10 years. It's been Poland, and it's been a great choice for me, and I'm happy that I'm here, and I'm glad that I'm here, and I have no plans to leave, so that's all good. But with the changes that Trump is doing, and this is really good for all Americans, even if you, quote-unquote, hate Trump for whatever reason. He's doing things that are good for the American people, and that's good for all. All right. He has a penis, so that's cool. Now that makes sense. Everything's clear. It's cool. I'm not being punked. That's hilarious, but it's cool. So, and I wanted to encourage some of my friends.
It's 12 o'clock.
It's midnight now in Poland, Central European time. I wanted to encourage some of my friends to come here, especially those that have money, that are well established in their careers but are just unhappy there. One guy in particular who I need to do a story on him because it's really kind of bittersweet. I've been encouraging him to come to Poland because he wants to get married. This is the story. He wants to get married, but what's messed up in his mind is he wants to get married in Poland, find a Polish girl, but then move back to the U.S. And I'm telling him, dude, in my opinion, you don't want to do that. If you're going to come to Poland to find a wife, a Polish wife, you got plenty of money, you got plenty of talent that you can work here, start your own company. He happens to be an architect, really, I would say, kind of world renowned. He's done projects all over the world. I would say the guy is definitely wealthy. He's got an apartment and he's got a house. He could sell both of them and live off the interest, right, in Poland if he had to, or just sell his shit, move to Poland, buy a decent house, and settle down, right, and get some work on the side as an architect or whatever, as an advisor, as whatever. You could do something. But his plan is to go back. He would take his wife back to the U.S. And I think, I don't know, my experience, like with my wife, she never wanted to go. She would like to go visit, but has no plans, really no desire to move to the U.S., right? Yeah, Magda's saying, oh, sorry, this guy who's using his wife's account is reminding me that in the U.S., it is possible for some people to get sued for like $240,000 if you mispronounce somebody. It's totally messed up. So it's totally messed up. That stuff is just insane. You're not going to find that here in Poland, thank God. So it's another thing. That's why I'm saying, when I first came here, I had an Irish guy who told me that Poland, I guess 2002, that Poland in 2002 was like Ireland 50 years ago. Just saying that it was like culturally intact. People were happy, they were Catholic, they were family oriented. Everything was cool, right? And while Poland is changing and being affected by a lot of shit, it's still hanging tough, right? It's hanging tough. And now with the threat of hashtag Islam sucks balls invading Europe, they are really hanging tough. And even I think the president, Duda, said that he would rather take sanctions than allow in hashtag Islam sucks balls to invade the country. And I know the prime minister has also said that what the EU has been doing is just out of control. It's just not rational. It has to change. Merkel has to go. There was articles from 2014 stating that Merkel was supposedly going to step down or might be forced to step down, but for whatever reason she maintained this power. And you know, when people like to say, when women, they used to say, like when I was a kid, if women can have power, the world would be a greater place, better place. There'd be less violence. There would be, the matriarchy does not work, as you can see. As more and more women are coming into power, the matriarchy is making the world a less safe place. Germany is a less safe place. And as my man 1916 Cassian is saying, we still do not have too much of the EU shit. Okay. We still do not have too much of this EU shit. Yeah. I think yeah, we're right now on the border of normal Europe. Yeah, okay. So this EU shit is coming, trying to get in here. But there still is enough of a pushback. I think Poland will definitely survive. Now, some people have anticipated that Poland will once again have to save Europe from this latest Muslim invasion, as they had to do at the gates of Vienna. Or something like that. So those that haven't moved for a reason, there is hope. There is hope for optimism that things will get better in the United States. Oh, okay, this is good to know. 1916 is saying he's been living in Munich for 5 years, and things have gotten much worse since his refugee stop. Listen, I used to visit Munich. I think the last time I was there for fun was 1999. I was partying like it was 1999. I went to the Oktoberfest 1999, and it was a great place. Germany was a great place. I grew up in Germany as a kid, and even though technically it was occupied country until 1991. Yeah, until 1990. Technically it was occupied, right? Yeah. Merkel is going to be replaced by a high school graduate called Schultz. That's a good one. In the live chat from Mock to W, who is really a guy. Yeah, it was a cool place to live, man. Germans were proud to be German. Even after the war, they were still proud because they had rebuilt their country. Their country was in ruins. It was in shambles, man. I mean, you think Warsaw was destroyed? Warsaw was destroyed, like 95% destroyed. But think about Dresden. Dresden was firebombed. That city was completely destroyed. Think about Frankfurt. Think about Berlin. These cities were practically leveled, right? These cities were leveled, man. Oh man, and they rebuilt their cities, right, in the so-called German economic miracle. In the really starting in the 50s, or maybe late 40s, early 50s, when Germany basically deregulated their economy, and just massive spurt of investment and economic rejuvenation. It was like a phoenix that came out of the ashes. Germany rebuilt itself, right? And it was so successful that they imported these Turkish guest workers to do the menial jobs that now Germans didn't want to do or didn't have to do because they had created all these jobs in industry and in manufacturing. They needed lower skilled people, and they brought in these Turks. That was the beginning of the problem. They were supposed to only be there for temporarily, and they're there forever now. And when the president of Turkey, Erdogan, he went to Germany, he went to Belgium, and he went to where? Germany, Belgium, and Holland. And he gave speeches to the Turkish people there, telling them not to integrate and to vote for Turkish policies, pro-Turkish policies. This is a huge problem in Europe. And these Muslims, these Turks, have generally been peaceful. I mean, generally been peaceful. Right? I remember the last guy in Munich, probably was Turkish. He made me a cafe latte, or in Germany they call it a Milchkaffee, milk coffee, which is basically a cafe latte. And it was freaking amazing. I didn't know what the hell, because I was with some girls the night before, and I ordered an espresso, and they ordered Milchkaffee, and it looked good. And I tried it the next day, and it was a big cafe latte basically, or cappuccino, cafe latte, more like a cafe latte, and it was really decent. So oh wow, getting some feedback here. Beautiful city. 5 years ago, I was saying that the most danger was when I was drunk on vodka with my buddy, and when we went to the party. That was in Munich. Now even my wife, who is German, says that since refugees welcome, it is not the same. Yeah, definitely Erdogan equals ISIS. The other big thing is this. Look, the deep state, which has been controlled by these corrupt, it's not controlled by the politicians. The deep state is enforced by the corrupt politicians, right, who are bought and paid for. Trump was so freaking right. Now, people, listen, if you listen to Alex Jones, you're getting one side of the story. And in some respects, I often feel like he's not, I don't want to say that he is controlled opposition, because I don't believe that. But he's afraid to step on the toes of the globalists. And when I say the globalists, I mean the Jews. Now, not all Jews, right? I got Jewish friends who are just normal people. A lot of them are, now I'm not saying that every problem goes back to the Jews, quote unquote, right? It's not. But there is a problem with these people who believe in this ideology, which comes out of the Talmud, and it's based on usury, which is basically charging interest, right? Interest on loans. Now, the Jews in the medieval times charged 44 and a fourth % interest. And this is how they got so rich. And I know that at some points they were only allowed to do that. That was their job. But then when Napoleon came through and he freed all the Jews, gave them the same rights as all the Christians, and gave them, they could do anything they wanted to. What did they do? They continued to do usury because they could make so much money, and it's not hard work. Sitting on your ass, counting gold, counting coins, and counting your interest, right? And it's not always been true, but when I realized this, and really the last 10, 12 years, I'm basically a cash guy. If I don't have the money for something, I don't buy it. I haven't used credit or credit cards in over 12 years. Okay, so I'm really doing my best to defund those people, the globalists, make their money off of usury, primarily, and now off of cheap labor. Yeah, good comment from Cyber2306. And I got this comment from another guy, and I mentioned this on one of my videos. I think he's a really great friend of mine, German guy. He's based out of Munich, but he's super successful, and the guy is definitely wealthy. I'm not saying he's mega millionaire, but he's definitely a wealthy dude, right? But I don't think he sees the immigration problem from the ground level, because he probably lives in some gated community where he doesn't see it. And I asked him about it, and he said that it's all good. That most of the people that he sees are walking around wearing Western clothes, and that's all they're doing. But Cyber's, and he also, my friend, and also Cyber's making the point that Merkel was probably in lose-lose situation. If Merkel didn't open the gates to these so-called migrants, they would be accused of being Nazis, right? By the liberals. Even though Merkel had said 5 years earlier that multiculturalism is a failure, has failed. And because she opened the gates, she's kind of not backing down, not recognizing that this policy is a policy failure. And she should really reverse the decision, or at least say, look, if you're in some camp in Turkey and you want to apply for asylum to Germany, do an application and we'll pick the cream of the crop, right? That's really what I would do if I was Germany. And the same thing, these migrants coming into Italy from Africa, they're not Syrian. They're not facing war. Italy needs to deport these people. You know, give them some water, give them some food, maybe even a change of clothes from donations, from charitable donations, and then send them back. They have no legitimate right to be in the country. Or, I mean, that's the only solution. And no one's going to call you a Nazi for protecting your borders. And if they do, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. So send them back. Send them back, man, because if this doesn't change, you can see there's going to be a clash of civilizations. If there's going to be more terrorist attacks, and I'm afraid they're going to be happening, because as these people, number one, either refuse to assimilate or cannot assimilate because they don't speak the language, and they have no job skills so they can't work, and welfare is going to die soon enough, right? Even if you're an asylum seeker, you only get financial support for a limited period of time. And at some point, these people are going to have to go back to their countries, right? And I think on that note, let me just transition into, it's been reported that Trump has defunded, stopped funding of these terrorist groups, ISIS, for, you know, these so-called freedom fighters, the freedom rebels in Syria and in Afghanistan and wherever else, right? And watch how fast the violence and the Islamic State collapses now once we finally start funding them. Now the Saudis are still funding them, the Qatarians are probably war, right? 16 years, it's 2000, yeah, since 9/11, 2001. Oh, comment from a guy in Munich is saying that the Muslim men are wearing Western clothes, but the women are staying at home with 7 children, wear their hijabs when they go to groceries once every so often. As long as you're not walking through the city, travel with the U-Bahn, you cannot see the problem. The German media is hiding the truth. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. See? So the common person who's walking the streets, going to the Messe market, or going to the Messe, right? The Gemina, not the Gemina, the Gilde, the market. If you're just a common person, you're going to see this shit. This guy is a wealthy dude, so he's probably not seeing this shit. He's traveling a lot, so he's probably eating at hotels and at the airport, and just takes a taxi back home. He's got fancy sports cars, so he's driving the country roads with his Russian girlfriend. So he's not seeing this shit. But the common person is seeing this stuff. Another comment, Cyber is saying that Poland he's from Poland, and Poland has had the struggle with the Germans for over 600 years, 900 years. Since Germany started to unite, and it will be war in Europe, mark my words. Yeah. But the other side is somebody else has been there. He's Polish, but he's been living in Munich for 5 years. He doesn't see the Germans uniting. That we will soon have Germanistan as, you know, as these Muslims increase. So Tomash is saying that he's visited almost all the Western European countries, and only Ireland does he see as being able to be saved, still being able to be saved. But look, if Ireland can be saved, we can do a pincer movement, the hammer and the anvil from Ireland and from the V4, right? An East-West combined invasion at some point. Maybe what's happened. Look, it doesn't have to go to violence, right? No, but I don't want there to be violence. I think if we stop this, stop funding these people, send them back, make peace. Look at Syria. Syria needs thousands of people, millions of people really, to rebuild the country. All these cities have been destroyed. All these people can go back. And that's where, instead of funding ISIS, how about you fund the rebuilding of Syria and put these people back to work? I mean, these Syrians are probably work for $100 a month. Yeah. Magda is departing and saying hashtag Islam sucks balls. That's his last comment. All right, everybody, it's 12:19. I hope you find that perfect situation for yourself, whether it be in the United States or in Europe or in Poland, where I found it. I really do. All I'm saying is that if you're in the U.S., don't give up hope. This is a good move by Trump. And I cannot see how, with the Republican majority in the House and the Senate, that this type of legislation cannot be passed. Furthermore, the president, under the Constitution, has huge amounts of power to control immigration. In fact, the Constitution states that the president can decide what class of people can and cannot come into the country, right? Straight up. So I think that is a good thing for the U.S. And God forbid nothing happens to Donald J. Trump, that he doesn't get JFK'd, and he's in there for at least 4, possibly 8 years. Most likely he'll be there for 8 years. He will radically rebuild the United States, turn it back into hopefully a really positive place for my kids to eventually go visit, maybe live there, maybe work there, maybe even move there. So, but we'll have to see what happens. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you for listening. This is Holy Joe Rock and Roll. We'll be coming at you live and unscripted, reminding you to always make it happen for the captain, because you're the captain.